One of the most proud achievements of the Alliance is that we have so many innovative employers and so many innovative providers, and they're actually communicating with each other, they're collaborating. And this is what we're going to be talking about for the next 45 minutes here. We have some questions that have come in. We will get your questions at the end as time allows. But I would like to start by introducing our guests. So from the beginning of the panel, Bill Picard is the CEO of Smart Infusion Therapy Services, LLC, and SmartScan Medical Imaging, LLC. Bill is a very accomplished entrepreneur and an executive leader with expertise in operations and financial management across a broad spectrum of services and industries, while focusing on process improvement, systems integration, telemedicine, and predictive analytics. Bill, in collaboration with his very talented colleagues, some of whom are actually here today with us, is dedicated to establishing long-lasting relationships and partnerships with self-funded employer clients. I know, Bill, for several months you have been all over Wisconsin and northern Minnesota meeting with a lot of our employers. We have employers that are calling us, and I send them directly to you. His goal is to provide innovative solutions and unparalleled service at an affordable cost, ensuring long-term success and satisfaction for all stakeholders involved. Remember, Mike said before, $695 for an MRI, $650 for an MRI without contrast. Carrie Reef is a newer member of the Alliance family and Vice President of Human Resources for Crystal Finishing Systems Incorporated. Carrie has been working with us for several years and has been forging this path and this journey for Crystal Finishing Systems to join the Alliance and join this amazing family. Carrie has been a leader in human resources for more than 25 years, driving business results through a focus on culture and talent to achieve long-term business goals. She's responsible for the entirety of the HR function, including talent management, leadership development, compensation and benefits, change management, employee relations, diversity and inclusion. There is a reason I'm reading all these. She served previously as the VP of Human Resources at Foot Locker. Here's the reason why I was reading all of her responsibilities. She will be the first one to tell you that benefits did not become a #1 discipline by choice in really her previous experience, but out of necessity. She now embraces the challenges it brings to her workforce and to the state as a member of the advancing free market healthcare group. Dr. Jason Sansoni, joining us straight from the operating theater. He thinks he still has the markings of the mask, and his hands are rough. He did perform a surgery this morning. President and orthopedic surgeon, president of Orthopedic and Spine Centers of Wisconsin, an amazing new group that has developed. We'll talk a little bit about his experience of how he got there. A distinguished orthopedic surgeon specializing in shoulder replacement, orthopedic traumatology, and spine surgery. He also serves as the president of Orthopedic and Spine Centers of Wisconsin, a new independent practice providing comprehensive, value-based musculoskeletal services to patients throughout the region. What he doesn't know is that I tell about him to everybody at the gym. There's a lot of folks above 65 at the gym, and I give them his phone number, his name, his picture from the website. I am not joking. So, and my name, and I'm like, go to Jason, tell him Melina sent you. So I'm super impressed with Dr. Sansoni. Last but not least, Kaylee Wilkinson, Vice President of Enterprise Strategy and Corporate Development with WPS Health Solutions. Kaylee is the driving force behind WPS Health Solutions' strategic vision. With a focus on pioneering healthcare strategies, Kaylee is renowned for her prowess in driving transformative initiatives, sales acceleration, and cultivating strategic alliances. Drawing from experience at Optum and Mercer, but also previously at a DPC provider or an on-site, near-site clinic provider. That's how Kaylee and I met several years ago. She has consistently exceeded growth targets, revolutionized the healthcare landscape, and unlocked business value to transform the healthcare system. Welcome to all of you. I'm so humbled and proud to be among you, so grateful that I have you here today. We do have some questions that we're going to start with, and I will start with Carrie and Kaylee. First with Carrie, and then the same question to you, Kaylee. So, Carrie, in this incredible journey you're taking yourself, your staff, your employees, your company, why is it important to build these strong partnerships with healthcare providers, and how have you approached those relationships?
So as Melina said, I came into this role and I hated benefits. Benefits was never a joy of mine or anything I liked to do. Being part of a large organization, it was always nice to have a whole other department that took care of benefits. Then joining a private family business, benefits was a huge expense, and I had to dive in, body, soul, mind, every aspect of me had to dive in, and I had to learn it. And I couldn't have done it without the partnerships that I have. So first of all, for those of you that are employers out there that haven't done some of these things, or that are thinking about it, or just looking for different ways, if I can do it, so can you. So, you know, it was really important for me to, just from the beginning, because I didn't have the experience and benefits that I needed to in order to lead the charge, I had to partner with everybody. I had to rely on, you know, reaching out to my broker. I actually interviewed I don't know, 10 or 12 different brokers, and I had a friend that was a broker, and I said, I can't afford you, but can you build my scorecard for brokers? So that was my first partnership. I also had to partner with, the company had an on-site clinic at the time, and unfortunately, due to mergers and acquisitions, that clinic was slowly dying. The hours that they were servicing, the staff, everything was just going through change. So we had to look at a new clinic partner, and I couldn't have done that without my medical friends and reaching out to them. So it's just been an incredible ride with my broker, my network. I mean, like Melina said, I'm new to the Alliance network, but she has been a strong influence and educator for me for 4 years. Prior to even joining the Alliance, she never gave up on me or ignored me because I wasn't a member. Mm-hmm. And it is with the Alliance, and like I said, my broker and some of the other people, my coworker, or not even my coworkers, my competitors for labor, or even suppliers and vendors in the industry that I had to partner with, that were either doing it already and they were going to help guide me, or it was that then once I started going, I needed them to come along on the ride so I could then lower my costs if I had more people join the same clinic. So collaboration was key to the success of what we're doing. And I could tell you and go on and on and on forever, but I guess I only have like 3 minutes to talk, but I can't say enough about how much collaboration played a role in the success of where we're headed as a private family or a private family-owned company. And I couldn't have done it without the medical field, without the networks, without the suppliers of healthcare. You know, we use SmartScan here. It's amazing. Or SmartScan. I'm looking at Smart Infusion. He's going to teach me about that in a little bit, but. Collaboration is key, and resources are key, especially if you're somebody like me that is not a fan of benefits and knows nothing of benefits.
And not only that, but we heard Mike Tom talk about the Colby and Colby Windows on-site clinic. This is the same, or near-site clinic, I should say. This is the same clinic that Crystal Finishing Systems is using, developed really by your CEO, who's an amazing believer in those benefits. And so more and more employers are joining the revolution. So thank you for that. Kaylee, could I go to you with the same question?
Absolutely.
Partnerships?
Yes, yeah. I think WPS has a different advantage. We kind of look at this not only from the health plan side and provider partnerships, but also as an employer facing many of the same challenges that all of you are. And so, there's always been this inherent disconnect, right, between health plans and providers. And so we look at that every day. We're really trying to figure out how can we embark on some strategic priorities, just innovative solutions that really partner with the provider community, but the right providers, the high value providers. And so I think a great example of what we've done in that regard is our partnership with the Alliance, we have a 4-tier benefit plan that incentivizes our members to go to those high value providers for little to no out-of-pocket costs. And so we continue to do that on the plan side, and then also the employer side. We're facing many of the same challenges with pharmacy costs and specialty drugs, and we're constantly looking at innovative ways that we can do that. And I think in order for us to really solve this conundrum, which is a very broken healthcare system, we need to form partnerships. We can't go it alone. And I think it's not just provider partnerships, but it's partnerships between employers, health plans, the various vendors that are out there, and really coming together. We know employers have the strongest purchasing power because they're the number one buyer of healthcare. And so how do we use that to kind of work together? And I think partnerships are key.
Thank you. Jason, I'm going to come to you. I'm going a little off script case I know. So your organization is relatively new. You left a very renowned system, a very incredible job, right? Mm-hmm. Could you describe your current model, your journey, and what makes what you're doing today different, innovative?
Yeah, no, thanks. Myself and 11 of my partners left basically SSM here in Wisconsin. One of my partners is from UW, but regardless, we opened up our own shop, so to speak, in Madison. And really the tipping point for us was exactly what Carrie and Kaylee were talking about, which is the part of this ecosystem that's relatively complex, right? There's so much entropy in healthcare nowadays. Nobody understands which stakeholder needs this, that, and the other thing. And what we found was that really at the end of the day, you have to align incentives with all of the stakeholders in the ecosystem, right? And to give you an example, at our previous employer, in literally I was in charge of musculoskeletal medicine from here to Texas for their organization. And in 1 year, I was hearing, do more work, we need more productivity out of the surgeons, right? You have to do more surgery. And on the other side, it was, but hey, the health plan, we're spending too much of the risk pool dollars. We're gonna institute a prior authorization process for surgery, and we're gonna pull back on letting you do stuff. And at the end of the day, we're paid to do more work, right? And so it became pretty obvious that this was not a sustainable model. There's ways to structure the healthcare ecosystem in such a fashion that all boats rise together. And so we had made a lot of attempts to try to do that within the confines of where we were, and ultimately decided to open up our own shop. So what are we doing differently? Well, again, as long as you structure the way that you're delivering healthcare and you collaborate, since that's the topic here, with the actual purchasers, i.e. the employers, it's actually not that difficult to align incentives, right? Shared savings programs, bundles, all sorts of stuff like this. MSK spend on your total cost of MSK spend is usually about 25% of your book of business of your healthcare spend. It's the biggest chunk. And really what do we advocate for is doing the right surgery on the right patient at the right place, and when appropriate, trying to increase the efficiency of the dollars that you're spending for healthcare, right? Sometimes it actually makes more sense to go to surgery right away if this is a ultimate result, regardless of what you do. Sometimes it makes sense, obviously, to not do surgery. But as long as those shared savings programs, we can call them in a blanket fashion, are in place, then I'm not penalized, so to speak. It doesn't cost me money to not do surgery, in a way, right? And we're actually able to all do the right thing for every patient, every employee, every time, because everybody is actually pulling on the same oar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, let me come to you and talk to us a little bit about your journey and also how you've done an amazing job partnering with employers. How do you do that? And what does it mean, both for your organization but also for employers?
Well, Melina, I think the biggest thing is really offering two services, in our case, that are high value adds at an affordable cost. So it starts there. And what builds on that is really, and it was discussed in Dan's panel earlier, what builds on that is getting the member to understand that they have rights and they have the ability to significantly influence the choice as to where they go for care. And that's really been probably our most significant challenge since I've been CEO of both practices. It's getting the employee to do the right thing. As Jason said, when the incentives are aligned, it should be natural that that happens. However, there is so much pressure from the systems to keep that order that the employees really struggle, the members struggle, taking that order to a value-added provider like Jason's group or our group or the other groups that are part of the Alliance network. And so it's us partnering with the employers to educate and really train and help with guidance in that decision to pull the order and to take it to the right place.
Yeah, I think to Bill's point, if I can.
Of course.
I'm usually not short for words, sorry. So I was actually,
That's all right.
I was actually shocked. I remarkably sat here for 15 minutes and didn't say anything. Anyhow, I think that is the important thing, right? And educating even people who work who aren't the patient, right? Educating
Exactly.
me, educating employers, educating providers, educating purchasers, all sorts. You know, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, right? So things have to be broken down pretty simple. I mean, it's kind of like really concrete sequential for me. And the idea here is we need to all be able to understand the basic elements of what a healthcare system looks like when again, incentives are aligned, right? But again, as I was saying earlier, there's so much entropy, it's almost impossible to know where to start. And so I think efforts geared towards educating not only your employer base, but the employees within that, and helping patients and purchasers of healthcare make smarter decisions as it comes to providers is super important, right? Because people don't even know they have a choice often.
Thank you. Kaylee, a couple questions for you. So I skipped one before. So talk to us about how WPS as an employer demand and command change in the marketplace. A large employer in the Madison market and elsewhere in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, I mean, we're facing the same challenges as every other employer. Yeah.
Right.
And so we are focusing, again, a lot on partnerships because we know as an employer we can't do it alone. And so how do we really leverage those employer groups who care as deeply as we do about transformation and change? And I think so much of it is education, you know, exactly what Jason was saying. In no other industry do we procure services that are low value but super high cost, or I'm sorry, low quality, but we do in healthcare. And it shouldn't be okay, but we've been doing it for so long. And I think it is that education. So it needs to start at the top, and our leadership is incredibly committed. We know that we need to do things differently. And so we're, you know, really looking at everything. We're looking at our pharmacy costs. We're looking at our medical claims. We're trying to identify where are there opportunities for us to do better and think differently. And so, you know, our leadership team is engaged. Again, our partnership with the Alliance has been absolutely instrumental in that. And just getting out and meeting groups and I think coming together because there's power in numbers. And so how do we as an employer, like you said, a large employer in the community, kind of join forces with other employers and drive that change and really demand it.
So the Alliance as an employer, Crystal Finishing as an employer, WPS as an employer, we all have tiered benefits, and we all have a tier 1. I like calling it a tier 0 because it is the idea that these services at these sites of service, those providers, will be free of cost. And myself and my family has taken advantage of this. And one of the biggest struggles that we have as employers, right? So I'm putting on my employer, my human resources hat on. One of the issues that we have is to communicate the value to our employees. We heard Mike before saying he goes around the shop. This is free. This is tier 1. It's free. Did I tell you it's free? Definitely one way, but it's a challenge, right? So, Kaylee, I'll start with you, and then Carrie, I will come to you with that same question. How do we best communicate this value to our employees
Yeah.
and their families, not just our employees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cultural shift, right? So I mean, it starts at the top with your leadership, and I think the previous panel, they hit on a lot of really good points. It's continuous. It's not at the time of open enrollment. It's not at the beginning of the year. It is continuous. It is built into your culture. It's built into your communication plans. I think so much of success of any of our benefit offerings, especially as we've heard a lot about on-site primary care, things like that, as Melina mentioned, I'm a huge fan. It was something that when I was in that space, we talked about constantly. We would say engagement or that value of that benefit is only as good as the engagement you get. You obviously want an ROI on that benefit. And so engagement strategies are absolutely critical. And I think understanding the value of the benefits and how that translates to your employees. So I think as you offer benefits, are those the benefits that your employees want and need? And so speaking to them on an ongoing basis about the value it brings to them, about the value it brings to their family. I think the tricky part is healthcare is personal. And when your employer starts to get involved in your healthcare, and again, I'd see this all the time on the on-site space was, well, I don't want my employer to have access to my data or to know about my healthcare. And I think we're starting to see a shift there, but it's really that you're a partner in their healthcare and that their privacy is absolutely, something that we take serious, but how can we help you as an employee have the resources to get the best care that you need, and also being very sensitive in terms of financial obligations and good stewards of that. So it's just constant communication. It just should be part of your culture, ongoing, not timely. And again, as you work with some of your various vendor partners too, they all have engagement strategies. Leverage all of those.
Carrie, you did quite a bit of engagement. You're engaging your employees constantly. I do know some of our team members were bright and early. You started 5 o'clock in the morning and went for 2 days and went until 6 o'clock in the evening. Can you talk to us about engaging your employees and their families as well?
Absolutely. And just to touch on the initial part that Kaylee was speaking on, money talks. And our industry is in manufacturing. And so we let a lot of the word of mouth talk too. Once you start getting these people out for tier 1 surgeries, going to direct primary care or specialties like Jason, they start talking on the floor, and so it makes a difference. But we did a lot of engagement. So not only were we coming off of a negative experience with our previous healthcare provider because of it being eaten up by a bigger system, we had to build the confidence back in the new clinic that we had put in place, and then we had to educate people. And as I mentioned, I don't know, well, I'm learning a lot now, but I didn't know anything about benefits. And even as an HR person, the options were limited. All I really knew about benefits when I was even, leading an HR team is that I had the ability to switch networks or TPAs to get me a different network. I didn't know that I could just completely break free from a lot of these things and go out on my own with some other things. And so education is key in all of this. And again, collaboration. So we did, when we did a health fair for the first time since COVID struck. Mm-hmm. And we had all of our partners there. So we were insistent, tried to be a little bit pushy, but that, you're there from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m. because we run 3 shifts and we need to give everybody the same courtesy. In addition, when you look at your benefit expenses, is it the team member that you're paying for, or is it their family? And in our cases, a lot of our high-cost claims were family members. And so how do you get them educated to make those decisions and the right decisions? And again, it comes down to incentivizing. And I know there was a question on the last panel is like, Mike was talking about how the percentage of the number of people to get into the clinic was, is a metric that we use. Well, here's the thing. If you're on our health plan and you want discounted health insurance off of your monthly premium, you're required to do an HRA. And oh, by the way, if you want a little bit extra money, so is your spouse. And so we incentivize it right at the premium, the monthly premium of getting those people in there. And it's all about education, education, and education. And again, I can't say enough, it's not a one-person show.
Right.
And all of your providers that are in this fight with you, all of your networks, your TPAs, your smart scans, your doctors, they will be there by your side educating your team member because they believe in making this transition too. So again, it's education, education, education,
Yeah, I think
and resources.
To your point, as long as there's those forums to bring all the stakeholders together, right? So as you say, health fairs or what have you, I think you would find that everybody else in the ecosystem is very willing to sit down and go to those events, right? Because this happens person by person. I think, the other piece of it, you talk about money talks. I mean, we certainly in orthopedics, obviously, again, this is a high cost area. And, we know of plenty of employers. And if you look on a broader scale, some of the biggest companies in America, they'll put their employees on an airplane, fly them to a high-value location for their joint replacement, fly them back home, and pay them money to go do that. That's how much money they're saving, right? So, I mean, case in point, doing joint replacements at a surgery center is less than half the cost of doing it in a hospital. I mean, you're talking $25,000, $30,000 of savings per patient, right? Until you actually know that, and again, back to the education piece, until employers and purchasers know that, then it just seems like, well, okay, that just, whatever, I don't know how that works, so we'll just keep doing what we're doing. But there's a lot of money that is spent that's wasteful in the system.
Lena, what I see too, and having been an employer prior to this, where we had 100 plus employees, I sit back and I wonder what could I have done differently in that situation. Now, we had a health plan because of a national presence. I couldn't really do things like employers can do in this arena and self-fund. But as Kaylee had said, it takes senior leadership commitment to make these programs work. And I don't think it's something that can be delegated to just HR to have become effective. As good as the HR people are, it takes senior management, senior leadership, C-suite leadership to really get behind this and promote it. It also has to do with money in that to incentivize the members and their family members to do the right thing. We see the most effective programs being those where we are no cost, coupled with, as Jason said, the incentives paid to get the employee to change behavior. The concern they have over the cost of health care is extremely high. If you can reduce that and also provide that financial incentive, what we see is you've got a win-win. And in the case of our infusion practice, these drugs can cost as much as some of the surgeries that Jason's referencing.
More.
Or more.
Yeah.
And we know we can provide alternative solutions away from the systems at half the cost. It makes so much sense to pay that patient some money to come to us. I mean, it's just the numbers are incredible in terms of the return. So.
And we do have a lot of examples. I mean, I'm not going to go, we at the Alliance get examples on a daily basis. But recently, your organization and the Alliance, that commitment from senior leadership. So we had the CFO of a very large company getting in touch with me first at the Alliance, account management at the Alliance, was going through their own musculoskeletal process, and they wanted to know the cost of care. And so I called this gentleman, and he said, well, I just want to know, how do I do it? What is truly the cost? I'm calling this provider. they're giving me high-level costs. They can't tell me what the cost of care is. So I thought of calling the Alliance, and then, what do you recommend? Where should I go? And here's the key of what he said before I sent him to Jane at SmartScan and you, Bill. Here's what he said. I want to know because I want to be able to tell my employees how to do this.
Right.
So that commitment from the leadership, from the highest levels of the leadership, to say, okay, I'm a patient, I'm going to go through this process, and I want to know what it is that I have to say to my employees. Right. It was a wonderful example. This gentleman did his MRI at SmartScan, then called me again because he is going through a procedure. He called me again. I gave him the different costs of care. Very happy. So the other piece that I wanted to say is the patient experience, because now this person is not only a CFO, he's also a patient. So calling and being able to get an answer, transparency of data from both the Alliance and the providers. My own personal situation, and Jason, I'm going to put you on the spot because he knows my husband went through a traumatic medical event less than 3 weeks ago. We thought it was musculoskeletal. I emailed Jason over the weekend, and he responded to me on the weekend. Now, maybe he responded to me because I'm Melina. I don't know. But it was just, it felt so good to be able to get an answer.
No, I always respond.
You do.
The other part of it is I have like enough OCD to where I want my inbox to be empty all the time because it's
No
like my
red
to-do
dot.
thing. Yeah, exactly. No, case in point, right? Is that transparency? I mean, in what other industry do we buy things where we have no
idea what they cost? Right.
You know, and I had patients in my office one time, very specifically needed an inpatient surgery, and she had no money. She was self-paid. And so we called 3 different hospitals and said, all right, here's the CPT code, here's exactly what we need to do. It's going to be a 2-night stay. You know, can you tell us the cost?
Could not. I bet you, I know the end of
Two
this
of them
movie,
never
could
got
not.
back. 2 of them never got back to me.
Yeah.
And the other one, it took them 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, so I'm probably at competing clinics in Milwaukee. They see me walk in and probably just want to walk away because I'll go up to the front desk and I'll say, how much is an MRI without contrast? And, you know, I'm chopping and I never get an answer.
They don't know.
And then I'm cash pay. I'll pay right away. Can't help me. Can I schedule in the next 2 weeks? Not for 6 weeks. Yeah, I mean, it's really, the whole way it's managed is so backwards.
And part of the education, I think, is that people just assume that's how healthcare is.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Right? You're like,
exactly.
well, of course it's going to take 6 weeks to get them right.
Right.
Yeah,
Of course.
exactly.
And that's a conversation we need to be having with our employees is around cost transparency. We're really good about talking about the benefits that we offer, but breaking down what those benefits are and what they cost. I mean, that's the information that they're hungry for, so they can make informed choices. And it's just not the way that we've talked about healthcare in the past.
Right.
Well, I think
So-
the other big component to that too is, and it's about educating the member, because I hear time and again that the member will say, well, it's free. It doesn't cost me anything. You know, they've exceeded their deductible.
Their deductible, the
or whatever it
out-of-pocket
is,
maximum,
and it's
right.
free. Well, it's not free. Your employer's bearing 85% of the cost, and this has ramifications for their financial sustainability. You know, it's really important that they understand that.
So I know I'm getting the 10-minute mark. I know I'm checking my watch. I've been very good because I'll get yelled at otherwise. But let me open up a question to all of you. What is the future of this collaboration? How can we catapult this change to really change our healthcare ecosystem? What do you see the future of this collaboration being? Jason, do you mind if I start with you?
No, yeah, and I'll promise I could talk for 10 minutes on
I
this.
know.
I think the future is, again, it's certainly I can speak from our experience here insofar as MSK is concerned. You know, we were very specific with the partner that we selected when we left employment. So we are managed by a company called Hopco. Many of you probably have not heard of them. They do back office stuff for orthopedics practices, ostensibly, right? That's their turnkey solution for rev cycle management and billing and all of that kind of stuff. But really, they're kind of incentive aligners on steroids across the country and run massive pop health shared savings programs for all for going fully at risk for all MSK spend in various different arrangements. But, think even of it broadly is just getting a population, whether it's an employer, whether it's a shared savings program with the Alliance, whether it's with United Healthcare, 100,000 lives at risk, right, of kind of putting their arms around all 26,000 ICD-10 codes that are associated with MSK and making sure that evidence-based guidelines are being followed, that right place, right setting, high-value providers are doing the care. A lot of that involves virtual engagement with patients. A lot of it involves virtual engagement with the purchaser, so whether it's the employer or the payer. But they're basically expert at setting up these types of infrastructure on a broad scale, and that's the space that we wanted to be in, right? Because
Awesome.
we know that that's the direction this has to go. I mean, one of the talks I often give is that our healthcare expenditure is not only a problem for individual employers, it's a problem for our national security, quite honestly, and there's slides about this. I'll stop there. But my point is that we recognize as a group that that's the direction things are going, whether anybody likes it or not, that's where they have to go. And so we wanted to be on the forefront of that with a partner that knows how to actually deliver that.
And as you're getting ready to open up your ASC,
Yeah.
sometime in ambulatory surgery center here in Madison, sometime in early to mid 25,
Yep.
I would say.
Yep.
I think my colleague Deb Conferman and I would love to talk to you about capitation. So I love that.
Yep.
Bill, what do you see as the future of this collaboration?
I think the future is very bright. There's so much progress to be made here, and what I'm seeing with my colleagues is that we're just on the front end of it. It's a cultural shift, as Kaylee said, and with the right commitment of senior leadership, with the right partners in the collaboration, and we feel blessed in that we have, we're with the Alliance, we have brokers that we're dealing with, TPAs, care navigators. We really like where we're positioned, and I think if we build together what we have started here and make it stronger and really get the education in place, get the incentives aligned more fully, I think the future is very bright, Melina.
Carrie, what would you like next as an employer?
From an employer standpoint, I think, we continue to do a lot at Crystal Finishing, but it's not enough. And you need people that want to get out there and want to bring others along.
Yes.
And you look at healthcare, and healthcare is one thing that affects every single living person. And from an employer standpoint, I think that it's my responsibility to get other employers to join the cause with me. I think it's not just enough to educate my team, the employees of Crystal Finishing, but I need to help educate the people in my community and everybody else, and just build the buzz around it. Because, like you said, I think we're just on the beginning, and we need to get support around it. And the more that we can educate all of our partners in the community as a whole is where we need to be. And I do really strongly believe that this is the right direction for national security, right, Jason?
There you have
Oh,
it.
yes.
That's a whole different PowerPoint deck.
Yeah.
Kaylee, the same question for you.
I am very optimistic. I think, throughout my career, I've spent my career in healthcare, and I've had the opportunity to, work as a consultant. You see kind of various sectors of the healthcare system and all over the country. And without a doubt, Wisconsin leads this country when it comes to innovation and transformation, especially from a self-funded employer perspective. I think that we've got strong partnerships in place. We have a market that's hungry for it. I think that we can really be in this state the example to other states as we transform healthcare. So I am encouraged, excited. It's why I joined WPS.
Yes.
And
Thank
it probably leads the efforts in value-based care and self-funding.
Absolutely.
Because it's one of the top 5 most expensive states to
Yep.
get healthcare,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
That's the issue, and we can have a whole another talk about why, but right, that is very much a function of not having a free market in this
Right.
state.
Right. Do we have any questions from the audience, or text it, Jennifer, on the phone.
Feel free to step up to the mic or text your questions to 608-571-3690. I will start with one we already had, which is, Dr. Sansoni, how do you think about employers and patients differently now that you aren't part of a system?
Yeah, well, good question. So it matters to me now, right? In the system, that's the whole thing, is that the actual, the point at which the care is delivered and the provider has none, they don't even know, care, or otherwise indifferent as to who the payer is, who the employer is, all of that, right? And so that's where the money, the friction, and the drag is in the system, right? Is that there's not direct incentive alignment because it's so opaque. So yeah, I pay a lot of attention to it now, of course.
We got another question up front here.
Good morning, Ken Sturmiska with Novia Health. We're an independent primary care provider in Wisconsin. I'm going to pick on Cheryl because she's not here now. She asked a question in the last session about data, but the implication was sort of if we provide something, we scare the system enough, will they change their way? So that's a little bit threatening, right, to those of us who are creating independent options. So I guess to the two employers, would there be anything that the systems could do to say, we want you back? We're a one-stop solution. So is there any risk for those of us who are helping to create a marketplace of care options in Wisconsin that we need to think about as we develop going forward?
I think from my perspective, the systems, they're not focused on high value care. They're still operating largely under a fee-for-service model, and I think that it goes to the point that we've all talked about with educating our employees on how we're spending our healthcare dollars, the types of care that they're getting. So until the systems, I think, can start to think differently about how we're all thinking about healthcare, it would be very difficult to want to go that direction. I don't know if that answers your question, but
And Ken, they do that today, right? They're trying.
Yeah.
They're called their HMO health plans. You know that in Wisconsin, every system has an HMO. We're working now with an employer that just joined the alliance last year, I believe, and Security Health Plan is trying to take them away. Not only that, but they went to this employer and they said, this is how much you're paying through the alliance. And Mike Roach and I were like, what? How do they know how much they are paying through the alliance? So they're doing it right now. Candidly, I think we would all want everybody, the entire ecosystem, to come together and bring value, right? And I don't think that we're fearful of the competition. I don't know it's a threat.
That's what I always say, is that we're playing on an entirely different playing field.
Yeah.
It's apples to oranges, right? And I can tell you the reasons why the systems aren't going to come to you and say, hey, we're going to cut your cost by 30% is because of the profit margins they run are 1%, 2%. That's the issue with being a hospital, right? Hospitals are holding companies. They should be holding companies because it's just such a high fixed asset industry.
But I think as a DPC provider, what you have to be careful of, I think the advantage, so there are ways of combating that, or they're standing up, as I'm sure you know, kind of their idea of on-site, near-site clinics, and nothing would irritate me more because it's an opportunity for them. They stand them up, yes, kind of under the same premise that we all do, but then they're just funneling those patients back into the system and driving down those downstream costs. So it's almost like a little tricky maneuver. And so I think that's just another area that we need to be careful of.
Yeah. And the patient experience, right, which is unparalleled to Ken, just because you and Sabina, thank you for joining us, by the way. You are on the DPC side, just said, my husband had a traumatic medical event. Wendy Molaska, Dr. Molaska, who is also here and is our physician, right? She was on vacation and she was texting us and emailing us on a daily basis as my husband was in the hospital. Like that experience, who else is going to be able to give me that, right? So I think this is all that we have time for. Poor Natalie keeps waving the 2 minutes, like 10 minutes ago, the 2
I was
minute
going to say
sign.
it's at negative 10
It,
seconds.
it is at negative. Join me in thanking our panel for their insights today. Thank you.